First class isn't for you. The millionaire laughed, until the boy revealed an amazing truth. Jake's eyes darted across the bustling coffee shop, where the smell of fresh brews wrapped around him like a warm hug. Yet, behind the counter, his heart felt heavy. At 17, he was already juggling 3 jobs, pouring coffee all day, skipping meals, and studying late into the night. The clatter of cups and chatter of patrons made up the soundtrack of his life, and every sip of coffee he served felt like a piece of his dream slipping through his fingers. For him, that dream was a prestigious university with a shiny promise of a brighter future. But sometimes, even the strongest hearts ache. One Wednesday afternoon, while wiping down a table, Jake's ears perked up at a condescending laugh that sliced through the friendly chaos. Mark, a well-dressed businessman, lounged near the window, his laughter a cruel echo as he ridiculed the appearance of a few unfortunate souls lining up for coffee. First class ISN tea for you. He spat, his words curling like smoke in the air. Jake felt the sting in his chest. Hadn't he just come from a life where he fought for each breath and every hopeful moment? Did his genes, a little frayed at the hem, make him less deserving? The laughter continued, but Jake wasn't laughing. He clenched his fists and reminded himself of his mother's sacrifices, of the countless hours she worked while battling her own pain just to keep food on the table. They were a team, him and her, and he couldn't fail her. A flicker of anger ignited inside him. He wouldn't be defined by a moment of mockery. As Jake tried to shake the weight of Mark's words, a family emergency hit hard. His mother's recent illness intensified, leaving Jake grappling between attending classes and staying by her side. One look at his younger sister made it all worse. She was just a kid who deserved carefree days, not the relentless burden of life. Jake's schoolwork slipped, tension coiled around his heart as he chased down bills and worries, but somehow, amidst the whirlwind, he found the strength to enter a regional competition, where he impressively showcased his skills. The result? A scholarship opportunity to his dream school, the very ticket that could turn their lives around. Suddenly, it felt like the universe was aligning, yet the ominous presence of Mark lingered in his mind. A few weeks later, at a community event, Jake and Mark's worlds converged. They were like two sides of a coin, one flipped toward the sky, the other weighed down by shadows. Standing before Mark, indignation welled inside Jake. "You don't know me," he shouted, surprising even himself. "I'm the son of a veteran who fought for his country, who believed in a dream. You think my worth is defined by appearances?" The people around held their breath. Jake's heart raced. This was everything. Mark's smirk faltered, the truth settling like a heavy cloud. Did the millionaire hear him? Could he grasp the depth behind Jake's words? As the moment hung in the air, the crowd shifted, waiting for a reaction. Would Mark emerge from his bubble, or remain shackled to his privilege? Jake turned away, heart pounding, uncertain of where this encounter would lead. One thing was clear, the flame of hope flickered fiercely within him, ready to light the way forward. Could it change both their destinies? The air crackled with unanswered questions, leaving everyone anxious about what would come next. Jake's emotions hung in the air like smoke, the tension thick enough to slice through. He turned away from Mark, his skin prickling with heat. What had he just done? He felt eyes boring into his back, some were sympathetic, others skeptical. The noise of the crowd faded as he pushed through, desperately trying to detach from this moment that felt too big, yet so incredibly necessary. Was it really courage that had just bubbled over, or was it desperation? Maybe a mix of both. It was one thing to fight for your dreams in private and another entirely to lay your soul bare in front of strangers. Anxiety coiled tightly in his stomach, but he clung to the flicker of hope he wouldn't let extinguish. The next few days were a blur. Classes dragged on as Mark's laughter echoed in his mind. He pored over textbooks, but words swam on the pages, taunting him with every attempted read. Jake's focus kept drifting back to his family's struggles and the responsibilities lying heavily on his shoulders. His mother's illness snagged at his thoughts, rooting him in concerns that felt relentless. Jake scribbled down notes during the classes but couldn't shake the growing ache in his heart. He watched other students joke and laugh, their worries hidden under clouds of privilege. Did they realize the sacrifices? Did they understand just how precarious the balance of life could be? He glanced at his phone, the screen lighting up with a message from his sister. She sent a picture of their mother, lying in bed with a fragile smile. The sight pierced him deeply. How could he pursue his dreams when every day felt like a battle? As he walked home that evening, the streets flickered with illumination, but Jake felt as though he were navigating through shadows. The number of people bustling past him felt surreal, each lost in their world. Suddenly, he spotted Mark ahead, walking with a sharp confidence. The sight ignited a familiar heat in his chest. Before he could think better of it, Jake approached Mark, heart racing. "Wait." The words slipped out before he could rein them in. Mark turned, eyes narrowed, his expression shifting to one of irritation. "What now?" he asked, his tone dripping with condescension. Jake took a deep breath, grounding himself. "You don't know what my life is like. You see a kid in worn jeans and think you can tear him down, but I have dreams. I'm not going to let someone like you stomp on them." Mark's smirk returned half-heartedly, but Jake could see a flicker of surprise. "A kid with dreams? That's cute." "Cute? It's real." Jake's voice broke a little but he pressed forward. "You laugh, but you don't know what it takes to stand up, to keep moving forward when everything feels like it's against you." Mark eyed him closely, perhaps for the first time, truly considering the words. A heavy silence enveloped them, broken only by the distant sounds of the city. There was tension in the air, a magnetic pull between two lives headed in opposite directions. What if he could make Mark understand? As Jake stood firm, he realized something vital. This moment wasn't just about him battling against Mark. It represented a larger fight against the tides of society that too often pushed the hardworking aside. But as Mark slowly turned away, shaking his head in dismissal, Jake felt his heart sink. Would he ever be more than just a fleeting thought in Mark's privileged existence? Was this confrontation worth it, or had it just been another moment of futility? Determined not to let the setback define him, Jake scheduled a meeting at the scholarship office, where he would present his case, a presentation that could ultimately change everything. But first, he needed to process this moment, to face the bitter reality that sometimes battles burst forth but leave scars that take time to heal. As he reached home, fingers trembling with emotion, he entered the dimly lit living room. His sister was curled up in a blanket, caring and innocent, while his mother slept nearby. Jake stepped in a little closer, holding back the weight of his feelings, understanding that he had to fight for them. "Every moment matters, even the hard ones," he whispered to himself. And with that thought lingering, he envisioned what the next confrontation might entail. Would he be ready for Mark again? Would this time turn in his favor? In the depths of his heart, the flicker of hope remained alive, eager to ignite into a flame once more. The next call to action loomed like a shadow on the horizon, pushing Jake into the unknown. Would he finally break through the barriers that held him back? Jake woke up the next morning determined. He rubbed the sleep from his eyes and stared at the reflection in the mirror. This wasn't just another day, it was a chance. A chance to convince the scholarship board that he was worth betting on, an investment worth making. He dressed in his best shirt, wrinkled but clean, and laced up his worn sneakers, a symbol of every step he'd taken to chase the life he wanted. Every tick of the clock felt like it was stacking against him as he grabbed his backpack, stuffed with notes and a few papers. His heart raced as he replayed his presentation in his head. What if they laughed? What if they dismissed him like Mark had? No, he had to believe. He had to hold on to the flicker of hope that ignited in him. Even in the face of doubt, the campus buzzed with the energy of students rushing to class, but Jake felt like a ghost, floating from one crowd to the next, unnoticed. He could almost hear their chatter about weekends, parties, and life plans. So different from his reality, where every decision felt like a sacrifice. He sighed, focusing instead on the office he was headed to. When he arrived at the scholarship office, his stomach flipped with anticipation. The walls were plastered with posters of success stories, students who had made something of themselves because of this very program. Jake straightened his back, reminding himself he belonged there, even if for just a moment. As he waited, he studied the faces around him, hoping to see someone who would understand his struggles. But everyone looked entrenched in their own worlds. "Jake! You're up next," the advisor called, pulling him from his thoughts. He rose and walked nervously into the meeting room. There were 3 board members seated at a long table, their gazes cool and assessing. Jake swallowed hard, attempting to shake off the weight of his nerves. He took a deep breath and began. "Thank you for having me today. I'm Jake Evans, and I'm here because I believe in my future. And I believe I have something to offer." His voice was shaky at first but steadied as his passion ignited the words. He shared his story, the struggles of his family, the late-night study sessions, the fire that burned deep inside him to reach for more than his circumstances allowed. As he spoke, he could see their expressions shift. Curiosity replaced skepticism, an opening that he might just make an impact. He highlighted his dreams, all while illustrating the obstacles he'd faced: his mother's illness, the weight of financial burdens. Each word felt like a truth he was finally unearthing. Just as he transitioned into his plan for the future, a sharp voice cut him off. "This all sounds great, but why should we invest in a kid like you?" The question hung heavily in the air, emerging from a woman in a sharp suit with an air of authority. It sliced through his moment of clarity, and Jake fought to maintain his composure. "Because I won't let my circumstances define me," Jake replied, conviction flooding his voice. "Because if given this chance, I promise to fight harder than anyone else. This opportunity is my way to ensure that my family never has to struggle like this again." Tears prickled at the corner of his eyes as he looked into the board members' faces, searching for understanding. The woman leaned back, considering him for a moment that felt like eternity. "And what makes you different from all the other applicants we see?" Jake clenched his fists and realized this was his moment. "Every no I've faced made me stronger, not weaker. I won't just take what you offer, I will turn it into something valuable for my community, for the next kid who feels stuck like I do." The silence that followed was thick with tension. He could see the wheels turning in their minds, the blend of reactions: admiration, curiosity, doubt. As if every moment spent questioning him led them closer to understanding his reality. Finally, the quiet was broken. "We'll consider your application," the woman said, nodding slowly. "Welcome to the process, Jake." Jake stepped out of the office, heart racing. Unsure if he had really made a difference or simply left another mark on a rejection list. But in that moment, he felt something shift in himself. Hope bloomed more brightly than it had before. He had stood up and fought, using the fire from his struggles to fuel him forward. As he exited the building, he spotted Mark across the lawn, surrounded by friends. It would be easy to let their laughter dim his light once more, but instead, he felt a riot of defiance rise within him. The battle was far from over. Could he really win the heart of those who believed in privilege? Could he change minds, one moment at a time? A flicker of possibility ignited anew as he walked forward, ready to face whatever came next. But over that horizon, a storm was brewing. A confrontation that could shatter his dreams or finally break the chains holding him back. Would he have the strength to face it head-on? Jake walked across the campus, heart pounding, feeling the weight of the day's events. Each step felt heavier when the memory of Mark's laughter echoed in his mind. He could picture it, the way his friends joked and teased while their eyes sparkled with privilege and ease. It made him question if he had the strength to face them, and yet, defiance surged within him. He would not let their laughter eclipse his hope. As he approached the student quad, he spotted Mark leaning against a tree, arms crossed, smirk plastered across his face as he chatted with a group. Jake took a breath, recalling the fire ignited in that meeting room. Today, he was not just any student, he was a fighter. "Hey, Jake. What's up?" Mark called out, his tone dripping with mockery. The laughter of his friends echoed around them. Jake felt his heart race, not with fear, but with resolve. Just finished my meeting, he said, keeping his voice steady. Oh, right. That scholarship pitch. How did that go? Mark leaned forward, feigning interest, and the laughter died down slightly. It went well, Jake replied, meeting Mark's gaze squarely. They're considering my application. Consideration? Really? Mark scoffed. Come on, man. You think they'd actually bet on someone like you? You're just not their type. Each word felt like a dagger, but Jake stood taller. You'd be surprised. I might not look like a typical candidate, but I've got something worth betting on. Something they can't ignore. Mark shrugged, his smile fading slightly. Sure, keep dreaming. But first-class ISN for people like you. Stick to your lane. It was as if a switch flipped in Jake. Rage mixed with determination ignited within him. What's that supposed to mean? Because I've struggled. Because my story is different than yours. I'm more than just my circumstances, Mark. The crowd around them hushed, drawn in by the palpable tension. For a moment, the world shrank to just Jake and Mark. Jake could feel the heat in his cheeks, not from embarrassment, but from the surge of adrenaline pouring through him. Face it. This is how it is. Mark shot back, regaining his bravado. You can call yourself a warrior, but the world doesn't owe you anything. It's not built on hope, it's built on reality. Jake's fists clenched. The cold reality Mark spoke about was the very fuel that pushed him. You think you hold the keys to success because you were born into it. But that doesn't make you better, Mark. It makes you complacent. You've never had to fight for anything in your life. The crowd murmured, a mix of shock and amusement. Jake's heart raced, he felt alive. Each word was coated in raw emotion. All the struggles he faced laid bare before those who thought they understood life. Just then, a soft voice interrupted. Maybe you should spend less time judging and more time listening. It was a girl from Mark's group, eyes shining with intensity. Jake is somebody. His truth is real. Jake turned to her, surprised. Thank you. He faced Mark again. Every rejection, every struggle, it only fuels my desire to succeed. You don't get to define my worth. Mark opened his mouth to retort but closed it, the smirk disappearing. The shift in the air hit hard, hesitation spread across his face. Whatever, man. We'll see how this plays out. Jake didn't let the moment pass without response. Yeah. You will. As Mark turned away, murmurs from the group faded into the background, like a symphony growing quiet. Jake's confidence soared, a sense of empowerment wrapping around him, but beneath that confidence lay fear. Had he just made a powerful enemy? And how would the scholarship board respond after hearing his truth echoed through the campus? As Jake walked away from the scene, the weight of possibility and danger loomed ahead. A showdown was coming. Could he hold on to his newfound courage, or would Mark's influence make it all unravel? Each step carried him closer to the answer. Would he continue to rise, or would he stumble when challenged? The unknown waited, and with it, the stakes grew even higher. Jake's pulse thudded in his ears as he made his way to the library, his usual safe haven. The chaos of the quad faded, but the tension lingered like a thick fog. Could he really keep this fire alive? Each step brought memories of Mark's jibes, but coupled with the rush of adrenaline, his fears transformed into determination. He grabbed the heavy door and pushed inside, the scent of old books wrapping around him as he sought solace in the stacks. Finding a secluded corner, Jake sank into a chair, his heart still racing. He took a deep breath, letting the quiet seep into him. The fight hadn't been just a moment of bravery, it signified a shift, a refusal to shrink away anymore. He had something he believed in, but could he maintain this momentum? His phone buzzed, jolting him from his thoughts. It was a message from the girl in Mark's group. Hey, I'm Sarah. I just wanted to say you were amazing out there. Don't let him get to you. Jake frowned, feeling a spark of hope. Thanks, really, he typed back, letting gratitude flow onto the screen. It feels good to be heard, you know. Totally. You should come sit with us next time. Not everyone is on Mark's side. Tentative excitement flickered inside him. Was this an invitation, or just friendliness? Maybe. I'll think about it, he replied. He put his phone down and pulled a book from the shelf, not really paying attention as he flipped through the pages, but his thoughts shifted back to Mark. He could still hear the condescension in his voice, see the dismissive look on his face. The clique that surrounded Mark only reinforced their privilege. But what if he could turn this around? What if other students felt the same way he did, hidden behind their own struggles? Jake's fingers paused over the pages, and a plan began to form, a narrative to share, a way to gather support. Maybe his path to that scholarship could inspire others. He thought of the other quiet ones on campus who felt voiceless. If he could find a way to connect them, it would be a bigger fight than just his own. After an hour lost in thought, he grabbed his bag and headed for the door, his mind racing with ideas. If he reached out, he might save others from crumpling under the weight of privilege and fear. He glanced down at his phone again, contemplating inviting Sarah for coffee. Talking to her could spark more connections. As he stepped outside, he spotted Mark across the quad, laughing with his friends again, the same smirk plastered on his face. A deep breath steadied him. Instead of dread, he felt something shift inside. Maybe it was the sense of purpose growing within him, but just as he turned to walk away, Mark's voice sliced through the air. "Oh look, it's the wannabe scholar." His friends chuckled, the familiar laughter swelling like a wave, and with that laughter came Jake's resolve. He tightened his grip on his bag and steadied his breath. "Hey, Mark!" he shouted, feeling the weight of his own words. "You can laugh now, but just wait until our paths cross again." This time, the crowd hushed, the recognition of a challenge in the air. For the first time, Jake felt the possibility of friendship with those beyond Mark's circle. A knot of anticipation twisted in his stomach. What if this moment was the turning point he needed? "Let's see how this plays out," Mark called back, eyes narrowing. Jake stared back, knowing that this was only the beginning. What he stepped into next would determine more than just his future. It could shift the very dynamics of the space around him. Could he gather a movement? Would his voice resonate enough to amplify the struggle of others? The questions hung in the air as the sky turned golden, casting long shadows beneath the trees. Each breath felt electric with promise, the kind that altered destinies. As he walked away, Jake couldn't shake the sense that the real challenge was still ahead. The next opportunity loomed closer, hanging like ripe fruit just out of reach. Would he have the courage to claim it before the moment slipped away? Jake stumbled as he walked, the weight of Mark's taunt still echoing in his ears. The quad shimmered in the fading light, but his mind raced with thoughts of what might come next. He pushed himself toward the coffee shop across the street, wanting to gather his thoughts over a warm cup. His phone buzzed in his pocket again, another message from Sarah. "Want to meet up tomorrow? My friends and I are getting together to plan for the scholarship drive. We'd love your input." A rush of hope flooded through him. He quickly typed back, "Definitely. I'd love to help." A sense of validation warmed him as he hit send, recognizing the early signs of a community forming around him. The smell of freshly brewed coffee wrapped around him as he entered the shop. It was bustling with students, laughter mingling with the clinking of mugs. Jake felt the energy, the idea that he wasn't alone. He found a corner table and sat, allowing himself to breathe a little deeper. Just last week, he would be shied away in isolation, but now he was reaching for connection. As he waited for his drink, he noticed a group gathered near the window. Among them was Sarah, animatedly discussing something with her friends. He felt a tug inside, an urge to join them, but uncertainty held him back. What if they didn't really want him there? "Jake!" Sarah's voice broke through his thoughts. She waved him over, a bright smile lighting up her face. "Come on, we were just talking about you." His stomach flipped with excitement and anxiety in equal measure as he made his way to the table. "Hey! "What were we planning?" he asked, trying to sound casual while the butterflies danced within him. "Fundraising events. We want to do something that raises awareness about scholarships, focusing on kids who really need the support," Sarah explained, her enthusiasm infectious. As they discussed ideas, Jake felt the words flowing from him. He shared his experiences, what it meant to fight for every opportunity. He watched as his thoughts sparked something in Sarah and her friends, a shared understanding of their struggles. For the first time, he felt like his voice mattered, like he could inspire change, but then Mark's smirk flashed in his mind. Would he dismiss Jake's efforts when word got around? Just as he was about to voice his concerns, the door swung open, and Mark stepped inside, his presence chilling the warm atmosphere. He strolled straight to the counter, ordering a drink while eyeing Jake's table. The laughter from the group faltered momentarily, the impending confrontation palpable in the air. Jake steeled himself, ready to stand his ground. "Look who it is," Mark called out, leaning against the counter, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "The underdog plotting with his little friends. Good luck with that." Jake felt a rush of adrenaline at the attack but surprised himself by responding with a calm confidence. "Maybe more people are starting to listen than you think, Mark. Change might be coming, and you're not going to be able to stop it." Sarah and her friends exchanged glances, sensing the tension. Jake's heart raced, unsure of how this would unfold. The uncertainty loomed, and the shop fell momentarily quiet, eyes shifting between Jake and the looming clash. Mark stepped closer, his face twisted in disbelief. "You think you matter? You don't stand a chance." Jake swallowed hard, but something inside whispered, "You do matter." He squared his shoulders. "Maybe we'll see who matters when this all goes down. You might be surprised." Mark laughed, but it lacked his usual confidence. The group murmured around them, intrigued by the confrontation. It was a tense moment, the air thick with challenge. As Mark turned to leave, Jake felt his pulse quicken. This wasn't just about Mark anymore. It was about standing up for himself, for those who felt invisible. Could he rally others to draw strength from this moment? The tension lingered like an unshakable question as Jake took a deep breath, the sense of purpose within him solidifying. What if tomorrow, when they met, things could truly change? Would they find the strength to challenge the status quo together? The answers hung just out of reach, teasing him with their promise. The next day dawned bright and clear, but Jake felt a storm brewing within. He had spent the night tossing and turning, thoughts of Mark's words gnawing at him. The idea that he could stand up to the popular crowd was thrilling but terrifying. By noon, he found himself pacing outside the lecture hall, glancing at his watch. They had agreed to meet at noon, and with each passing minute, the nervous energy coiling inside him felt almost tangible. He rubbed his hands together, feeling the sweat of anticipation. Finally, Sarah and a couple of her friends approached, smiles brightening their faces as they waved at him. "Jake!" Sarah called out, her enthusiasm slicing through his anxiety like a knife. "You ready?" "Yeah, I think so." His voice came out a little shaky, but he straightened up, reminding himself of yesterday's resolve. Inside the lecture hall, they settled in a row of desks, surrounded by the faint hum of chatty students. Jake took a deep breath, trying to focus on what they could accomplish together. Sarah laid out the ideas they had brainstormed, each one more exciting than the last. Bake sales, charity runs, even a talent show. Jake's heart swelled at the thought of contributing to something that could help others. As discussions flowed, he felt the warmth of connection growing. They shared laughs, stories of struggle, and little moments of vulnerability just like the coffee shop. It was remarkable how quickly the feeling of isolation began to dissolve. But then, right when he started to feel comfortable, the whispers came. Mark had apparently gotten wind of their plans and was hell-bent on undermining Jake. The door swung open, and Mark sauntered in with a couple of friends trailing behind him, casting sly glances at the gathered group. "Look at this," Mark called out, loud enough for everyone to hear. "A bunch of wannabes thinking they can change the world. Cute." Jake's stomach dropped. He hadn't expected Mark to show up here. He exchanged uneasy glances with Sarah and the others, but they held their ground. There was an unspoken understanding that they wouldn't let Mark's arrogance drown out their efforts. Change starts somewhere, Jake said, voice unwavering, meeting Mark's challenging gaze. Even if it seems small. Oh please, Mark retorted, snickering. That's rich coming from you. You think you can sit with the popular kids now? Newsflash, Jake, first class ISN for you. Jake clenched his fists, the familiarity of Mark's taunts almost debilitating. Yet, he remembered the day before, the feeling of standing firm, of being ready to fight back. You don't know who I am. Mark's laughter ricocheted through the hall, but Jake felt a surge of strength. You're right, you'll learn soon enough. Change is coming, he added with sincerity. A hush fell over the room. Any amusement Mark had faded, his friends shifting awkwardly, uncertain of how to react to Jake's unexpected assertion. The moment hung in the air, charged with tension and possibility. As Mark stepped back, a flicker of doubt crossed his face. The way he glanced around, almost searching for reassurance, gave Jake a rush of power. Sarah placed her hand on Jake's arm, looking at him with admiration. Her eyes sparkled as if she had just witnessed a minor miracle. That was brave, she whispered. Jake smiled, heart hammering but fueled by something deeper now, a belief in the collective power of their voices. Maybe he wasn't just standing up for himself, but for others who felt lost like he once did. As they regrouped, ideas began flowing again, sparking enthusiasm. But inside, Jake felt another question rising: what if they could really inspire change? What if they faced Mark together, united? It was just a beginning. A new chapter waiting to be written. How far would this journey go? And what hidden truths lay ahead for Jake and his friends as they ventured deeper into uncharted territory? The following days unfolded like a fragile blossom finding its way through the concrete. Jake felt the world shift slightly beneath his feet. There was an undeniable pulse of hope that infused his every interaction with Sarah and the group. They found themselves meeting every afternoon, each gathering growing not just in size but in determination. He rounded a corner into the coffee shop, heart racing with the anticipation of their brainstorming sessions. Hey, Jake. Sarah waved him over. Her smile lit up the busy cafe, and the rest of the crew welcomed him with open arms. They were laden with colorful napkin sketches and bright marker doodles, eager manifestations of their dreams. As they shared ideas, laughter bounced off the walls. What if we set up a mentorship program? Sarah proposed, her eyes shining. We could have upperclassmen coaching the new students. Help them feel welcomed and connected. It could make a real difference. Or what about a community service fair? We can bring attention to local charities. One of her friends added. Jake felt a swell of excitement. With each suggestion, Jake found himself falling deeper into this newfound sense of belonging. The planning became an escape from Mark's ridicule. It felt empowering to focus on something meaningful, yet the specter of Mark still loomed. Let us make it happen, Jake said, his voice steadier this time. Let us do something bigger. Something Mark can't ignore. But then, as if summoned by his thoughts, Mark showed up again. He sauntered in with undeniable confidence, flanked by his usual entourage. The coffee shop fell silent, all eyes shifting uneasily. Jake's heart sank yet again, but he refused to back down. Back for round 2, Jake? Mark asked, a challenge ringing in his voice. No, just here to actually make a difference, Jake responded, determined. Right. Mark smirked, glancing at the group. But you really think anyone will listen to you? You're just a nobody. Jake felt the heat rise to his cheeks, the familiar sting of Mark's words threatening to slip past his resolve. But he noticed the way Sarah and the others had huddled a little closer. They were standing with him, and that thought sparked courage within him. Change happens when people start believing they can, Jake shot back, surprising even himself. And I think we can. Together. Mark's expression shifted momentarily, sensing the change in atmosphere. It was nothing short of palpable. For a second, doubt flickered behind his bravado, and Jake seized the moment. "Maybe I'm not the one you need to worry about," he continued, emboldened. "It's the people we're trying to reach. They're the ones who make a difference. And they're beginning to realize how powerful they can be." The murmurs in the coffee shop began to swell, not toward Mark but toward Jake and his friends. There was a growing sense of admiration, and Jake felt it, the energy of potential being reborn. "Come on, Mark," one of Sarah's friends chimed in, surprising everyone. "You're from the past. We're the future. You're just scared we might actually succeed." Mark grimaced, but instead of sulking away, he turned on his heel, storming out. The others began to clap, gently at first, then building to a cheer that rose above the bustling cafe. Jake basked in it, his heart soared. They were doing something special, something that mattered. "Wow, you really took him on," Sarah said, her eyes wide with awe. Jake shrugged, trying to play it cool, but he couldn't help the grin spreading across his face. This was what it felt like to find his voice. And it felt so good. As they dove back into planning, Jake couldn't shake the thought: what lay ahead in their quest for change? What would they uncover about themselves and each other? The rush of excitement coursed through him again. This wasn't just about him anymore. But was he ready for the challenges on that path? Would they all stand strong as the stakes rose around them? Just then, a text buzzed in pocket, a message from an unknown number. With a quick glance, Jake's heart stopped. "I know what you're planning, and I'm not going to let it happen." His gut twisted. He had stirred something deeper than he anticipated. Jake's mind raced as he stared at the screen. The message pulsed in his hand, its implications spinning like a tornado in his thoughts. This felt different, more serious than before. He had just claimed his power, and now an unseen threat loomed over him like a dark cloud. "Everything okay?" Sarah asked, her brow furrowing. Jake swallowed hard, forcing a smile as he tucked his phone away. "Yeah, just weird spam," he lied, but doubt nagged at him. It wasn't just spam. Someone knew what they were doing, and they didn't want him to succeed. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur. Ideas swirled, laughter echoed, but every cheer rang hollow beneath the weight of his secret. Jake tried to focus on the plans, on creating that mentorship program or organizing the community service fair. But the specter of that message loomed large, and his heart raced with each jovial shout or hopeful dream articulated around him. As the sun dipped lower, casting warm hues across the coffee shop, Jake gathered the courage to share his concerns. "Guys," he spoke softly, gaining their focus, "I think someone knows about our plans. I got a text from an unknown number. Who cares? Let them try," one of Sarah's friends interjected confidently. "We're not backing down." Jake appreciated the bravado, but fear twisted his insides. "It's not that simple. We're all in this together. If they target me, it could hurt everyone." "Look, we've come too far to throw in the towel," Sarah said, her voice steady as she leaned closer. "We're making a difference, and we have to believe it's worth the risk. Ignoring it won't make it go away." He watched her, admiration swelling in his chest. This group was more than friends, they were allies, each one ready to jump in and fight, whatever lay ahead. But still, doubt lingered in Jake's mind. Mark hadn't just walked away, he was still lurking. What if he gathers his friends again? Jake voiced his concern, the tension rising in the room. What if he turns them against us? The air shifted. The excitement that once filled the cafe stuttered, drawing a hesitant silence. Staring into Sarah's determined gaze, Jake realized he couldn't let fear dictate his next move. This was an opportunity not just to confront Mark but to confront his own insecurities. "I'm with you, and I'm ready to face whatever happens next," Jake declared, a spark igniting his resolve. "But we need a plan, a way to stay safe and strong." "Let us open the conversation," Sarah suggested, her optimism infectious. We can chat with other students. See who wants to stand with us. A smaller, louder voice among the crowd. If we unite, we can't be ignored. He felt the adrenaline spike through him again. Yes. We can create a network. If we show strength together, no one will dare challenge us. Encouraged, the group exploded with energy and ideas, mapping out a strategy. Jake felt that pulse he had chased since the beginning. It thrummed in his veins, fueling the dreams they all breathed into life. The walls around them came alive with sketches and plans, but amidst the excitement, Jake's heart still raced with unease. He bit his lip, glancing at his phone. The looming text felt like a weight on his shoulders. But what if this doesn't go as we plan? He whispered, half to himself. Then we adapt, Sarah said fiercely, her eyes locked onto his. Nothing good comes easy, Jake. The group nodded in unison, reinforcing a powerful bond. They had each other's backs, and together, they could weather any storm. But as they ventured into the unknown, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the true battle was just beginning. With a surge of determination, they dove deeper into strategy, but Jake's mind wandered back to the threat. He wanted to believe they could rise above, but fear whispered that they might be walking into something far more dangerous than they anticipated. The air crackled with the promise of the fight ahead, yet uncertainty shadowed every excitement. Just then, Jake's phone buzzed again. Another message from that unknown number. You're too naive to think this will end well. I'll be watching. Always. His pulse quickened. The stakes were rising, and he could only hope they were prepared for what lay ahead. Would they be strong enough to face the darkness creeping into their bright plans? Jake's heart raced as he exchanged glances with the group, sensing the weight of what was to come. As they strategized toward an unknown future, one question echoed in his mind. Was he brave enough to protect what they were building before it was all ripped away? The days blurred together, each one filled with a growing sense of urgency. Jake's heart raced as he glimpsed his phone, the haunting message still imprinted in his mind, I'll be watching. Always. It fueled his resolve and ignited his determination to push forward, but fear gnawed at him, threatening to stifle the flames of hope. Rallied around the plan Sarah had so brilliantly proposed, the group brainstormed ideas that echoed their determination. They gathered students to spread the word about their community service fair and mentorship program, each voice uniting to drown out the lingering noise of doubt. Just as they found strength in unity, Mark remained a persistent shadow, his laughter looming over them like a suffocating fog. On the day of the community service fair, students flowed between booths, laughter rang out, and hope filled the air. But as Jake looked across the vibrant crowd, a flicker of concern tugged at him. What if Mark decided to crash their event, turning it into a battleground? Every corner he turned felt like the calm before a storm, and anxiety crept in like an interloper, but the sight of Sarah, a bright spark amidst the crowd, filled him with reassurance. Her laughter was infectious, and he could see the connection they'd built drawing others in. He approached her table, lined with colorful flyers and enthusiasm spilling over. Look at everyone. This is amazing, he said, his heart swelling with pride. It really is, she replied, her smile radiating warmth. We've made an impact, Jake. And it's just the beginning. Can you feel it? I do. And it feels good, he admitted, a sense of belonging wrapping around him like a comforting embrace. Just as they exchanged excited thoughts about possibly collaborating with local organizations, the door swung open, and in walked Mark, flanked by his friends. Excitement fizzled in Jake's chest as tension erupted. Wow, look at this, what a lovely little gathering, Mark sneered, a wicked grin contorting his features. The crowd turned, whispers filling the air, eyes darting between Jake and Mark. Seriously? You think this is cute? Mark continued, stepping closer to Jake, who felt frozen in place. No, it's powerful, Jake shot back, his voice steady despite the heaviness in his heart. We're doing something that matters for people who need it. You wouldn't understand. Mark's smirk faltered for just a fraction of a second, and Jake seized that moment. This is about making a real difference, something you'd never grasp. I'd suggest you pack up, Jake, Mark replied, the viciousness creeping into his tone. People don't want to be inspired, they want to be entertained. And you can't compete with that. The crowd shifted, murmurs rippling around them. Friends and supporters formed a barrier behind Jake, their unspoken unity fortifying him. Sarah stepped up beside him, linking her arm through his. This isn't about you, Mark. It's about us. It's about real people making real change. For the first time, Jake saw uncertainty flicker in Mark's eyes, enough to question his facade of dominance. Do you think people will listen to you? Mark challenged, but his bravado wavered. Let me show you, Jake replied, his heart pounding. In that moment, he realized the strength of their movement, the undeniable connection forged through shared struggle and the drive to uplift others like themselves. Join us, and you'll see the magic of what you're underestimating, Sarah urged. Mark's arrogance twisted inward as he backed away, recognizing the truth even in the face of his pride. You think you're heroes, but you'll just fade into the shadows. He stormed away, but as he turned his back, Jake felt a surge of triumph. The applause grew, students chanting their support, echoes affirming their shared resolve. They stood standing shoulder to shoulder, their collective voice ringing in defiance of Mark's hollow taunts. Hope burned brighter in their hearts, casting out fear as they embraced their potential for change. Days later, with the community service fair behind them and a wave of momentum building, Jake received emails and messages from various organizations willing to collaborate. The sensation was electric and awakening. Perhaps Mark was right, in a twisted way, they had transformed laughter into commitment, arrogance into empathy, and isolation into unity. As Jake sat in his room, he caught sight of his reflection in the window. The boy who used to cower at taunts was gone. In his place was a young man driven by purpose, held up by a community that believed in each other. His heart was full, and gratitude flowed through him like a soft current. He had ignited a spark in others. Then came the knock on his door. His mother stood there, fragile but filled with love, asking about the fair. Amidst the chaos, he had almost forgotten. He hugged her tightly, feeling tears prick the corners of his eyes. We're doing it, Mom. We're really doing it. I'll make sure we're okay. His mother smiled, tightening her embrace. He could see the weight beginning to lift from her shoulders, not just from his achievements but from the warmth of a community rising together. With renewed purpose, Jake picked up his phone, ready to gather the group for their next venturing, unafraid of the battle ahead. He was ready to reclaim their narratives, ready to inspire hope in others without fear of judgment. Together, they would show the world what real courage looked like, because now he believed deeply that they could change lives not just for themselves, but for everyone, and his courage would echo far beyond their campus. He vibed with fervent optimism, ready to inspire more than just his own future. Change was literally at their fingertips, and together, they would stand strong. Let us show them, he whispered softly, filled with conviction, and at that moment, he knew the real fight was just beginning. This is your moment. You need to subscribe now to never miss an exclusive story that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow and reach even more people. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about Jake's incredible transformation. And don't wait not even one more second to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this journey. Only true fans understand how crucial your support is right now.